Hello, and welcome to the Hold On to Your Heart Project podcast. Can you think of a time when you had to hold on to your heart? We can. And we're here to share our experiences that relate to mental health and emotional well-being in hopes to help ease someone else's journey and our own. My name is Jackie King, host of the Hold On to Your Heart Project podcast. Grateful to be here with you today. As well, we have film and audio producer of the show, Morgan. Say hi, Morgan.
Hey, everybody.
He's doing this out of the kindness of his heart. Today I will be interviewing Jennifer, a brave, bold trailblazer who, amongst many other things, has been victim to sexual abuse. In this podcast, listeners can expect to hear a conversation from a lived experience healing from sexual abuse. As for now, here is my interview with Jennifer.
Just look at them.
It is what it is.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's real. Action.
We're good to go.
Oh, good.
We're ready? We rolling?
We are rolling.
All right.
Okay, Jennifer, welcome to the Hold On to Your Heart Project podcast.
Thank you.
Super delighted to have you here. I've done a brief introduction to you, but maybe you'd like to just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I'm Jennifer. I'm 51 years old. I have 2 kids. I'm married for almost 30 years. I'm a therapist. I'm in recovery. Yeah.
How many years sober are you?
14 and a half
14 and a half years off alcohol.
of alcohol. Yeah. It's a good life.
Good life?
It's a good life.
What's the best part of that life for you?
God. I think the surprise of how good it is. Like, yeah, I think I just, for a long time before I quit, I wanted to not be a drinker, but I didn't want to give up drinking. And I just thought it wouldn't be good. You know, I thought I'd have to try really hard to make life good. I thought I was giving up the one sure thing I had that made me feel like, okay. But to my surprise, it's even better. Sobriety is even better.
Was there a time when it was hard while you were getting sober that
Oh,
you
yeah.
thought that this is never going to be
my
good?
God. Yes.
What did that look like?
I think I cried for I remember day 16, day 17, day 18. I remember writing in a journal and crying. I cried every day.
What were you crying, do you think, about?
I was so scared that I would never feel good. And that I really, at the time, I don't think I knew, but I think I was grieving. And when you're used to drinking, and I grew up in a family that drank, it's all I knew. That's how I was taught to do everything. That's how we celebrated, that's how we went on vacation, that's how we did holidays, that's how we did boredom, that's how we did misery. It was just
The forefront.
in the fabric, I felt of my being, that this is the way you do life. I really didn't understand people that didn't drink, and yet I hated it growing up. So I think in the beginning I just cried out of fear and loneliness for some reason.
You were grieving, and you're grieving that being the only thing that you knew.
That feeling, when you take that first, when I take that first drink, and it just washes right through, and it just goes,
your shoulders go from your ears.
fuck, I can do it. That I was grieving that.
Yeah.
I still grieve things about it. Like going out for dinner, not the same. Going to parties, not the same. There's things
Summertime,
that I really
cutting the
did
grass.
miss. Yeah.
Totally. So, that's very interesting. And how long have you been in your profession?
I graduated from master's in '99, so I was counseling a little bit before that, so 23.
Did you know,
24 years.
you know, from prior to that, that's something that you always wanted to do?
Oh my
Or
God,
did you fall
no.
in? Yeah. No.
That is such an odd thing to me. It was one of those moments in my life where I was shocked that I had this calling to do it. Like, I, deep in my heart, knew I was so attracted to that. But it almost seemed like so taboo to me, and maybe the way I was raised, or the way, you know, you just don't talk about stuff. And so I felt like I was breaking some major rule by going back to school and becoming a therapist. But I just felt compelled.
Did you have any feedback from your family or from the people that you thought you were breaking
Oh
free
yeah,
from?
over the years,
Yeah.
they confirmed it. I mean, that's another story.
That's another
We'll get to
story.
that, I'm
Totally.
sure.
Well, Hold On to Your Heart project,
Mm-hmm.
the name. When you hear the name, what comes to your mind? Like, as in, what do you think of when you think of holding on to your heart?
I immediately think about when have I had to hold on with both hands to myself? Like, when have I felt like no one can walk this path for me? And I remember actually saying that once to my therapist, a guy that really saved my life. I said, you know, you're great, my husband's great, I have friends that are great, but no one can fucking do this for me. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm the only one that can do this. And I knew that in that moment, and that's the feeling for me, of what comes up. Hold on to your heart. Like,
What is the
get
feeling
ready.
Under,
That's
like,
what it feels like. Like, brace yourself. Like, hold on, because shit's
we're
about
doing
to
it.
get
I'm doing
bad.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there certain times in your life where you feel like you've really had to hold on to your heart?
Oh yeah. For sure.
Can you share one?
Whew. I'm so afraid that I'm gonna like go blank at times when I really, really wanna say what I wanna say. It's really hard to talk about.
I was in that seat last week. I totally know.
Yeah.
And it is. You think you know, and then you get asked it,
Yeah.
and you just...
And I, at the best of times, have trouble talking about the past and things that have happened, and
What troubles you the most?
you know, it's going to take me a minute to get rolling. Once I kind of get there, it'll start flowing, but it's...
What's happening for you right now?
I'm full of adrenaline. My mind is like leaving my body. I'm scared. I am thinking about, like, my mom, betraying my mom by speaking. And yet, you know, I just feel, and I know that healing cannot happen without saying it out loud at some point and owning it. And so I either betray my mom or I betray myself. And there's still like this little girl in me who I love my mom. So talking about when I've had to hold on to my heart, I mean, it's about what happened between her and I, and what it was like to speak up about that, and what's happened since. Is that too broad?
No.
I mean, you know what? Thinking about coming on here, I kind of like went through all these scenarios of how could I talk about it without having to really say what it was? You know, how could I just, you know, get around it? And I think that's been a big part of my journey to holding on to myself, is eventually if I want to heal, I gotta fucking deal with it.
So the risk sounds like it would be betraying your mom if you told your story.
Yeah, like I've told it, but never publicly like this.
What in your life would change?
Well, not
having
much.
done this part?
Yeah, I know, not much, because I spoke up about my mom sexually abused me, and I will say that that is not her truth. So she and my entire family believe that is a lie. That never happened. I got really kicked out of the family, basically. Although I get confused about, did I leave the family? Did they kick me out of the family? But the rule was, you can come back if you say you're sorry publicly and
Publicly
admit
to
that
them.
you're a liar. Admit that you lied, and I can't remember the question. I don't know where I am.
Well, let's bring it back maybe to your mom sexually abused you.
And that's a hard thing to say, like even labeling it that way. I had absolutely no memory of it till I was 36.
Wow.
And when it came up, I was so shocked. I couldn't believe it. It came back to me like suddenly in the middle of the night, July 18th, 2007. I remember the exact moment. And I think there's a lot of reasons it came back to me at that time in my life, but
What do you think? Like what was?
I think the big one was having a daughter who had turned the age that I first remember things happening. She was 3. I had a son. I was on maternity leave for the first time. I didn't have to work. I've worked since I was 13, like kind of
Full
survival.
tilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was looked after. I was safe. I had some distance from my family emotionally too, because we were struggling to get along. And I think there was just a lot of things that made this perfect storm. And then, yeah, I had started going to counseling because I just knew something was wrong. Something was wrong, and I could not figure out what it was. I remember walking into the counselor's office with my son in a baby carrier, and I remember I just said to him, "You have to help me, help me."
Is
Help
this
me.
after you knew
No.
or prior to?
Prior to.
Paint the picture maybe of what felt so wrong, like what was happening for you.
I can kind of paint it now looking back. I have a language, like I never knew then what the fuck was going on.
36 years old, not sure.
Well, and I think it's like ultimately trauma makes you feel a bit crazy when you don't know the story. So like how I felt and what I was doing and how I drank and how I reacted to things, none of it came together. None of it made sense to me. Who I thought I would be as a mother wasn't coming out that way. And I was spending my time trying to get out of the house and I was on the run. Like I was running and running and running. And I mean, I had a great body back then, but I was fucked. And I always think that's ironic, But anyway, that's a tangent. Yeah, so I just felt like something was really wrong. And I felt something was happening in me and I didn't know what it was. So when I arrived on this counselor's at his office, waiting for him in the morning, like I didn't have an appointment. I was gonna go to the gym and I just like literally turned the van into his parking lot. And I knew he was the guy that could help me because I just knew there was no bullshitting him and I could get real. And so I just said, I need help, you gotta help me. And that was the beginning, and I had no idea neither did he. He had no idea either. Like, it's not like, I mean, he didn't know what was going on.
So spent some time with him kind of uncovering.
Not even uncover, just starting to talk and starting to talk about how I felt, which was really a foreign thing for me. And then that night, I could never sleep. I mean, there was lots of signs that I can see now looking back, but I could never sleep. And one night in the middle of the night, that night, I just jolted awake with this thought in my head, your mother was sexually inappropriate with you. That was the exact sentence. And I went, no, like that cannot be true. And I panicked, fucking panicked, and thought I must be crazy. I must be crazy. This is crazy. That can't be true. And that was really the beginning of about, the first 4 years were constant memories and flashbacks and not knowing that's what it was. I didn't know I was having flashbacks. I mean, it's a really hard thing to describe, but it's like you're in it again, and where is this coming from? Mm-hmm. Like, where is this coming from? Is this true? I didn't want it to be true.
What does it feel like to have a flashback? Or when does it hit you?
It's not as much anymore, but in the beginning it was constant.
And then you're sitting there telling yourself, this can't be true.
This can't be true. Where is this idea? What are these ideas I'm having? These are weird ideas. Why am I having these weird images in my head of things between me and my mom? That can't be right. I mean, I adored my mom. I talk about it in the past tense, but I talk about most things in the past tense because I think they're going to be over. Like, it's already over. Like, every friendship, every relationship. Yeah.
So
I don't know where I was.
when you found out, or when it dawned on you, my mom was inappropriate with me sexually, did you confront or try to approach?
I thought, I will never tell a living soul this. Never.
So
I am never going to speak of this. I'm not going to say it out loud. Nobody has to know.
So you went years then at that point?
Everything that I said I was never going to do ended up happening. It felt like everything I said I'm never going to talk about it. Then I talked about it. Then it was, I'm never going to tell my mom. I don't want to hurt her. I used to have to lock the door on the counseling room to be able to do a session because
Someone's coming.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was terrified, and I was terrified to hurt her, and I felt so bad for her.
What did you feel bad about for her in those moments?
I loved her. She was also a good person, which is really hard to put together. You know, like, I want for sexual abuse to happen by some stranger down an alley, and it's random and you don't know the person. That's not the fucking way it typically happens. So I love my mom. My mom hurt me. I still sometimes cannot put those two things together. I don't understand it. So I just wanted to be I wanted it to be that I was crazy. I went to professional after professional to ask them if they thought I was crazy. I've since come to believe that the people that really pursue and want to be crazy are not. It's like one of the hallmark kind of giveaways that it was trauma. Like, it was, the best depiction I've ever seen of what trauma felt like for me, because the word gets used so much and it pisses me off, like every little hurt or every little, it gets called trauma sometimes. People use the word lightly, but when you live with it, like, yeah, it's something else. But I was watching a movie, which for a time I couldn't even watch movies because I would get sort of, the material in the movie could just tip me right over the edge and I couldn't handle it. But I watched the movie American Sniper, that true story. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the guy had been a sniper in the war in Afghanistan or somewhere like that. And he came home and there was a scene where he was sitting in a chair watching TV and his family are running around and life is happening as usual. And he was just staring without blinking at this thing on TV. And what he was seeing was war, people being, like, it was violence, it was horrible. But really, that's not at all what was on the TV.
That was it.
And he was not in his house with his family. He was in that war. And that's
brings you right back.
what it was like a lot of the time for me. I mean, things happened from the age of 3. It was my first till I was 17 and didn't live there anymore. So, I mean, this is where I get like, okay, I need to clear up that I don't know if it's sexual abuse. You know, like I have all these sort of confusions about it.
Why don't we go when you did realize that you felt violated
Yes,
by your mother?
I did.
What did it shatter for you? Like, I guess what I would like to know is what did it shatter for you kind of then in the moment? Like, what was just completely, and then what kind of it looks like now?
Okay. In the moment, I knew that my life would never, ever, ever be the same. I knew the minute it came to me that, and I, from that time forward till now, feel like I've had 2 lives. I had the life before July 18th, and what I believed about my childhood and the stories I told and the relationships I had and how close I was to my brother, and then there was my life after July 18th, where I didn't know who the fuck I was. I didn't know what was true about my childhood. I didn't know what was true about my mind. I didn't want it to be true. So it just like, it ended up shattering like me.
Had there been, you know, it sounds like when you kind of discovered it, you didn't trust yourself and you thought you were telling yourself lies. Like, had you had a past of people saying that you're making things up or not being able to trust yourself? I mean, maybe from drinking, but
No, I did not.
you just didn't want to believe it. I know, why would you?
I didn't want to believe it, and what do you do with that? Like, I was like, even that day when I remembered in the night, I went to that therapist at 10 to 8 in the morning waiting for him like a fucking lunatic. And yeah, we had a big session that day, and I mean, he didn't see it coming at all. It was a shock. And then we both went and told my husband, and I knew as soon as I told my husband, shit was real, you know, like it was out. Mm-hmm. And I remember that moment so vividly. I had 2 little kids and they were running around with nothing on, and Ross was doing laundry, and he came and sat down, and I just said, I can't tell him. I can't. I don't know how to say it. And so my counselor at the time just said, some stuff's come up for your wife about her mother being sexual with her. And I remember my husband just looked at me and said, the truth will set you free. That was like, he was just rock fucking solid. And so then I thought, okay, well, we know we don't need to tell anybody. Let's not mention it. But then how do you do vacation, like family, like how does this gonna work? I already was struggling with my parents and couldn't figure out quite why, but it was getting clearer. And yeah, so I guess then what happened is eventually I wanted to kill myself. Like I thought, if I have to keep this secret, I mean, my siblings were phoning me all the time. Why aren't you talking to mom and dad? What's wrong with you? What, you know, like, how can you hurt them like this? What's going on? I had sort of taken a break from my mom and dad. Well, that was not okay. What's wrong with you? What's happening?
The dynamic was shifting.
Oh God, it was full on. And here I am trying to be a mother of two young kids. It just was so much. I thought I can't tell this secret. I cannot hurt my mom this way, but I cannot keep living like this. So to me, there was only one solution. And I quickly knew I didn't really want to kill myself, but I either was going to kill myself or tell the truth.
And you
So I did. Yeah. I wrote a letter and sent it to my whole family at the same time.
did. Individual letters.
Yeah, and fucking left town. That's what I did.
See ya.
See ya. Well, like I had it all, I had to plan it, and I didn't tell a living soul what I wrote in that letter because I didn't want anybody's influence on what to say or how to say, or I needed to know that this came from me. Like this was
Your truth.
Yeah. And so I didn't tell my counselor, I didn't tell my husband, I went up to the top of Eager Hill and I had a candle and a smudge and I wrote the letter and planned a trip. I mean, they don't even live here and I was terrified. I was just terrified of what was going to happen. And so I sent it. It was called, the subject line was, "A letter of explanation to my family."
So you wrote the letter, top of Eager Hill.
Yeah.
Can you describe it at all? What was said?
I said, yeah, I can picture it in my mind right now, but
What felt important at the time to say?
that I needed to say what was true for me and that I wasn't going to keep a secret anymore. And that, Mom, you did some things to me that were sexual for me. And I remember I wrote, I remember what you were wearing. I remember your hair. I remember I just put it in there and said, I want to heal from this. I want us to heal, and I need time to heal first, and then after, give me 6 months of peace, like distance.
Because they were on you like a bad rash,
Well,
and
they
you
were,
were
yeah, and
throwing
they-
off the dynamic, and they couldn't handle that, right?
Yeah, so I asked for that. I remember I said to my brothers, you have a choice to make about what you want to do with this, and they saw that as an ultimatum. And basically the whole family quickly said, you have false memory syndrome. And they got versed in that and deeply into the False Memory Foundation, and which is a group of people who have been accused of being sexually abusing their children, and the belief is that never happened, and these people in this foundation are the victims of false allegations, and it is terrible for them. So, I
How long did it take from the letter to them finding a foundation that can support?
it probably, I don't know. I told them in March 2008. I don't know, it's kind of a blur, but it was very horrible. My dad was a lawyer, he's passed away now. And he treated it like this was a legal case. And so I got letters that said things like, you have made serious and false allegations against your mother. They are unfounded. There is no proof. There is no corroboration to this. They wanted to sue me for slander.
Wow.
Wanted to sue my counselor for putting this idea in my head, because clearly the false memory people believe it is the therapists, the evil therapists, that convince their clients that this happened when it didn't, and the gullible, naive clients buy it, and it becomes, it's not a real fucking thing, the false memory foundation. I mean, it's not, the false memory syndrome is a made-up name by this foundation. It's not a diagnosis, but in the early 90s and when it came about, I mean, it was, it shut down a lot of people. It shut down people talking about what happened to them because,
Keep them quiet.
well, I don't know how many times I've said this over the years, but when someone tells you you're crazy over and over and over, and I already felt like I was going crazy, anything you do to try and prove you're not crazy looks fucking crazy. Like that, it just is, you can't, I could not get at a place where they would just have a conversation and heal this with me, and all I wanted was my family to say, oh my God, what happened? And that is not what I got. And so it just became clear that after 6 months I wasn't ready to talk to them. I mean, the questions were like, so tell us what happened then. So what happened with this sexual abuse nonsense? I mean, it's a bunch of rubbish. Clearly it's a lie. So what happened? And I just wasn't gonna, there was always this part of me, I think this is the hold on to my heart part. There was always this part of me that no matter what my head did to me, I knew in that moment I wasn't about to say the hardest thing of my life to people who already didn't believe me. Mm-hmm. They weren't gonna get to hear it. And I said that. So then it became, well, the reason you can't tell us what happened is because you've made it up. It was just years of hell.
It sounds
And like,
terrible.
my family got wiped out the minute I spoke up. And I was the villain. Yeah, I still am.
You say wiped out.
Like,
They're
I felt like they died.
Yeah.
I felt like they were in a car accident and they all died on the same day. And
You were basically marginalized out of your family for speaking the truth about your
Yeah.
childhood.
yeah. And I get it. Like, I get that no one wants to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
This is,
Uncomfortable.
whew, I mean, you know, I remember saying to my brother, if I was going to make something up, I would have made it up about dad or an uncle or I mean, I was sexually abused by a guy across the back lane when I was 7. Like, I would have told something that people could handle, that people could say, yeah, that does happen, you know. No one wants to hear about a mother. No one wants to know that a mother can do vile, intrusive things. I don't know, like, I feel like I need to say this. This is me caretaking her still. I don't know if it was sexual for her. I don't know what was going on for her. I don't know if she was replaying something that might have happened to her. I don't know if she didn't realize the boundaries she was crossing. Was she mentally ill? Sometimes I thought maybe she had psychosis. Maybe she did bizarre things.
Sounds like you kind of discovered it, right? And then you requested a bit of time,
Yeah.
drew a boundary,
Yeah.
keep yourself safe and to get some healing. And you know, just wanting some sort of, like, you thought, did you think that you would heal with them from this, I guess, you know? Like,
I think deep down I knew it was over as soon as I said it. But I held out hope that I wanted just to talk to my mom. You know, like, I wanted just to, like, understand. I wanted to understand her. I wanted her to know what it was like for me. And my mom had a big drinking issue. And she, one time, years later, like, we had been out of contact for years. All of a sudden, she emailed me and said, I'm in Cranbrook, and can we go for coffee? And I said, okay. And I picked her up. We hadn't talked for years. We had never talked about it. We never talked about what happened.
The false memory foundation, and
I couldn't get through that, so I had to let go. And we went to Tim Hortons, and we sat there for like 3 hours. And it was, you know, so painful. Like, it just was. I remember she kept trying to hold my hand, and I just couldn't. Like, but I remember saying at one point, you know, there was 2 of us in my childhood, and one of us was sober. And the one who's sober gets to be the historian. And that's me. Like, these things would come out of me, and I would think, who said that? You know, like, that sounds really true. And I remember driving her back to my sister, where she was staying. And I said, Mom, I just want a relationship with you. Like, I can handle that you don't believe this happened. We don't have to talk about it. I have to believe myself. I'm not going to say it didn't happen, but can we please just have a connection? And she just said, no. I have dignity, and I will not have anything to do with you as long as you believe this. And I said, are you serious? Like, I was like devastated. I'm like, are you serious? Like, are you going to get out of my van and say no? And she said, yeah. And she got out. And then she said, I love you. I'll always love you. And I love her. So there's the fucking torture. That is the torture for me that lives on today.
You can't just turn that love off, even if it is abusive, even if it is vile, even if it totally violates you.
It's, you know, I feel like this is risky to say, but I'm going to say it. I've had 2 kinds of sexual abuse in my life. One was with, I believe he was a pedophile. I was 7, and it was full on for a year. I spent tons of time at his house. That came back to me too. That was really bad. But he was, this is going to sound really bad, I know that, but he was like this nice, clean, straightforward pedophile. It sounds mental, but he bought me chocolate, he gave me money. You know, it gradually turned into something that was horrendous. But I could put it in this place of, you know, he would, like, my mom, this is my mom. I love her.
The lines are blurred.
It is just, and when I think about sexual abuse today, you know, like, this is what I want to say about it, that a lot of people don't agree with. We need to get to a place where we don't demonize and villainize perpetrators quite as much, in my opinion, because then there's no chance of any healing. Because if someone accuses you of that, of course you're going to be like,
Not me.
no way did I do that. Like, you know, we are not where we need to be as a society with sexual abuse of children at
Oh, I
all.
feel like you
Or
guys-
incest. I mean, it's like incest got dropped off the, I feel like incest got dropped, you know, like when the false memory movement came along and when families started getting ripped apart, which is what happens, it became really, really scary. And I think we stopped talking about it as much. So I think for my mom, I imagine, like, you know, that show Outlander, like, there's a scene in that show. This is sometimes the only way I can explain things. There's a scene in that show where this woman goes to the past, and then she's a doctor in the present. She goes to the past hundreds of years ago. She's a medicine woman then. They bring her in to see this boy. This is the scene. And he's in bed and he's really, really, really sick.
Yeah.
And the priest is there because clearly he has the devil in him and he needs an exorcism, because that's the way people thought back then. She came in with this knowing from the future that he had some kind of simple infection and needed a shot of penicillin. And that scene has stayed with me because I feel like 300 years from now, I want there to be this person who says, no, this is not how we should be handling sexual abuse. There needs to be this whole other way that I don't even know what it is yet, but I wish it was different. For kids too, like there was no way I could have told this as a kid. And there's no, like, still today, I know this from my work. It's very hard to speak up about this. First of all, you don't have any language for it. You know?
Well, yeah, even just listening to the conversation and being a part of this with you, it's just like, you know, the language doesn't come naturally about it for me. You know, I know people that have, and I think there are more that have been than we would assume or consider, right? It's very unsuspecting. You would never, it's so hard to know, and people, the conversations aren't happening around it, and like, you know, flashbacks, trauma, like having kids and like recreating life and then having to like heal those wounds through that. I don't know about that, but I've heard about it, right? Like the things that come up for you, for people that have been sexually violated and the impacts on their daily life. I mean, can't even.
And I think the thing that, you know, besides the torture of loving someone who hurts you and trying to figure that out, the confusion. Like when it's my mom, it's things that a mother could get away with, but it goes too far, or it's so. There was a lot of things I had to find a way to ask someone. Is this normal?
What is normal?
Did you ever do this with your kids? And like you know, there was one person in particular I talked to about that, and first of all, just trying to bring that up and say it out loud. And then I remember her saying to me, I have a lot of children of my own. I have been a foster parent. I've had 70-some children through my home. I can tell you that is never something I would ever do. Those were the times I went, oh my God.
Wait a minute.
This is sexual abuse. This is not right. But the confusion of
Well, and I think that makes really a lot of sense to what you just previously said about, you know, maybe not, you said perpetrators, like, shouldn't be so hard on them potentially, right? In certain ways, maybe there's no space for healing if it's that way, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, like had you maybe, I'm just curious, you know, not uncovering that isn't normal to do, would you maybe have carried that on unknowingly because?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think there's a fear that if you've been sexually abused, that's who becomes sexual abusers. But I don't know. Like, I guess it's possible, but I intuitively knew not to do certain things. Like,
Just no.
no. Yeah, I just, and I think that also is what started this bubbling in me is I wouldn't, wait a minute, I would never do that. Like, yeah, it's hard, all of it, because I don't want to sound like perpetrators are misunderstood or they should be. It's horrible. Like, it's fucking soul tearing. I think that's what Sheldon Kennedy said in his book. It's not heart wrenching, it's soul tearing to be sexually abused as a child. And that, it doesn't change that for me. Like, that is horrible. And they're people that are probably wounded or something's happened. And it's hard to know how to hold all of that at once. Just is.
Today, how does it show up in your life?
Oh boy.
I mean, you're without your family. You've been marginalized. Your family considers you a liar.
Yeah.
You live with
I've lost them, like,
the
for sure.
confusion of sexual
Yeah.
abuse violation. What?
God, it's such a big question. How does it show up today? I feel like it's so deeply woven through me to wonder when I'm going to be violated.
Wonder when?
Yeah,
Again.
still, yeah, like, I really struggle to be vulnerable with people, and that sounds cliche too, but to put myself in someone's hands is very difficult. I'd rather do everything myself. So the other night I thought I was having a heart attack in the middle of the night. Woke up with this horrible chest pain, and decided, okay, I better go to the hospital. Went to the hospital 3 a.m. And the nurse said to me, so you drove yourself here. No one knows you're here. You haven't told your husband. You haven't told your... It's that where other people are like, that's fucked. And I'm like, is it though? Because I don't, and it isn't even so much that I don't want to bother them. And partly it is. It's that I just don't consider that people would help me. Even my husband, who I know loves and adores me and would, and it would break his heart to hear me say that. It's like, I know it up here in my head, but my being still acts like at any moment I'm gonna get killed. You know, I have nightmares constantly about two big themes. One is someone's about to get murdered, or someone is being murdered, or I'm being murdered, or my kids are being murdered. And the other one is that I'm trying to phone somebody and I can't find my cell phone, or the battery's dead, or I can't get the number in right. You know, I'm trying to, and I know it's that feeling, right, of trying to reach somebody, trying to reach my family and say, come on, like, how did I get to be fired from this family? It's so unfair. I think the injustice makes me crazy.
I wonder if that phone call feeling in that nightmare is similar to when you said initially when you hold onto your heart and it's like you're in it alone. You know, you gotta, and it's not gonna be easy, right? That same.
Yeah, and protecting myself from people that should love me. Like, I remember when I first got sober, a person from a support group who really, really helped me in the first year, she said, honey, you better, well, yeah. She said, honey, you better keep your heart open and lock your front door.
Aw. You've said that to me before.
Have I? It's that, like, that is so painful to do, to keep my heart open, to love my mom, and to keep the door locked because she cannot come in. And yeah. So today, I mean, things still happen today. Like, you know, it wasn't that long ago, my dad was a writer and he wrote some books, and I mean, I've told you this, that I found a book that he had written that I didn't know about. And I was reading it and I knew it was about our family. It was obvious. I know all the stories that are in it.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get to read about him. Like, he's dead now. I missed many years with him. And I just want to know him, you know, like know who he was as a person. And so I'm reading this book, and it is about him, and it is about our family, and I'm excited, and then it became about me. And then it became about how awful I am. The letters I wrote to the family were in there. Like, that shit's still happening.
Complete violation again of.
I just couldn't believe it. I remember being at work, actually, reading this book, and I had to get a heater and put it on because I was shaking and freezing, and like my body temperature gets out of whack, and I can't think, and sometimes I can't stay awake, you know? So it's still very much a wound.
Still living with it.
In many ways. I mean, if my husband was here, he could tell you many other ways.
I was going to ask. Can you calculate the impact?
Oh, well, I remember
Of
one
living
time
with
he said to me, it's like there's what did he say? A toxic cloud of cancer over our family that never goes away.
How tough was that to hear?
It's tough because you know, it's hard not to feel like you're damaged, like, to begin with, that you're carrying this thing that leaks into the family life when I'm trying to get out the house, or I am triggered, or I jump, or I scream a lot. Like, if I get startled, I couldn't sleep in the house for like a long time. Because I couldn't sleep, and I was terrified at night, and so I already feel like I have a problem.
Were you?
I was sleeping out in my studio. But that was hard, you know. That regular noises of the house, like, completely put me into a 5-alarm fire state. And then to hear it, it was kind of like, holy shit, I better heal this. Like, I don't want to pass this to my kids. I don't want this to be all I ever talk about. I mean, I talked about it endlessly to my husband for years. It consumed me. So that's hard to live with. And yet it's hard for me to live with it.
Do you feel like you should be further along in the healing
Always.
than you are? What do you do when you feel like that? Or where do you go with
Go
it?
for more help.
Yeah.
You know, like, fucking turn over every stone, go to every therapist in town, help me. Like that, I feel like that's what I've done. I've gone to support groups. I go to adult children of alcoholics. I go to, you know, I'll do anything to heal this. And it is possible, because I'm not the same person I was 15 years ago. I know I'm not, and I don't want to make it sound like it's all drudgery. My life's beautiful.
What do you think is the game changer in that piece of it? Like, from then till now?
Facing it. Talking about it. Getting help. Get different help if the help isn't helping. Take something from everybody.
Is there a certain type of help that works best for you?
Well, I honestly feel like every single person I've ever gone to for help, it's helped me in some way. But some people were more of a fit.
Yeah. What does it feel like when you do trust yourself, you know, after years of not, like, or questioning
I'll
yourself?
let you know.
Still not there.
I don't know. I have moments of it, but it's hard.
To really trust
When I
yourself.
do trust myself, you know what it feels like? You know what healing actually feels like to me? It has its own feeling that is distinct from anything I've ever felt. And the only way I can describe it is it's like I'm being knit back together. And I feel mushy, and it must probably be the feeling of wholeness, I'm guessing. I don't know. But it's a very warm, I feel like peaceful.
It's funny when
I
you
can
say
feel
that.
joy in the moment. I can feel. I mean, I couldn't feel. I didn't want to feel. And
Hence the drinking.
absolutely. It was the best. I miss it. I mean, it's a sure thing, you know, and bulimia for me was another one. I mean, running, over-exercising, control, like control everything, control what I eat, control what I,
Not so surprising, you know, then to look back and wonder why everything you were trying to.
it all started to make sense. Finally. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you had one, you know, piece of advice or wisdom for someone that may be listening that has, you know,
Oh my God, people are going to listen to this?
I don't know if
It's
many
terrifying.
will. Let's put that out there. Not
Okay.
maybe many, but if someone does by chance and
Yeah.
has been through a similar experience
Oh.
and are questioning what to do with what they feel they know and are confused and feel violated and or abused, you know, what would be your recommendation for them, maybe just even in this moment, or is there anything that you can?
Well, my heart breaks for that because it's not easy. I would want to say all these things that I hope I've done, you know, like I'm not just spouting it, but I have never done it. I think I've done them. I mean, I would probably say, fucking face it. The truth will set you free. You know, like it's turn over every stone, try every kind of healing, get weird with it, like you know, do anything, and I keep thinking about this woman that I really admired when I was younger, and I remember one time she said to me, you know, you're the person you go to bed with every night. That's the person you need to really put first in your life, like your family you've created and this present day. The past and the present are so tricky when things like this happen. Just get real clear about who in the present is important to you and fight for that. Because sometimes you can't keep it all. Like healing is risky. You lose people, you lose things you never thought you would, but the gifts back are so worth it. They're so worth it. Like my life today is amazing to me and rich, and I love people. Like I can really love, and I've got a family that I've created of friends, and you're one of them for sure. I have people to spend holidays with. I don't spend a single minute with people that I feel obligated to be with that I can't stand. I don't do that, you know?
This whole new freedom and choice,
Yeah.
right?
Totally. So I guess I would say, you know, face it and get help. Don't do it by yourself. Get help. Find a way.
Maybe even just, do you have any practical tools? Like, is there some practical things that you do that
I do everything.
help you?
I do everything I can
You
think.
do. I know this about you. I feel like you should share
I do it all.
because you
Okay.
do it all.
I do.
What are your favorite?
My
your top
right now.
Yeah, right now.
Okay, right now. Self-tapping. This.
Okay.
Oh my God, magical. Okay, I'm Scottish.
Yeah. Amen.
I don't want to pay for shit. So a lot of stuff I get free on YouTube. So like podcasts, the tapping app, the EMDR app, like you can get it and just not really pay for it and get the inside tap. Like apps are amazing. There is so much healing you can do in your living room with no money. It can happen. And so I do all of that. I do stuff on YouTube and meditations, and I'm a big art person. I
Maybe
think.
we'll take some of your favorites and we can add them to the link for people to access.
Oh, sure.
if
Yeah,
that would
okay,
work.
yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
Collage.
Collage.
Like that is my, I think it's because it feels the most like what trauma feels like. I take little pieces of words and pictures and I put them together. And there is really like nothing like it for me, the feeling of making a picture, one picture out of pieces. And if I have a bad day, there is not a safe magazine when I'm in the room. You know, like doctor's offices, and like they're in my purse, or I rip things out because I always have a glue stick. There is something about art that, you know, there's so much that's hard to verbalize about sexual abuse and incest. But when you find a word and a picture in a magazine that can go together, oh my God, it's heaven to me. I have like volumes.
Yes, you do. You've got quite the collection.
Yeah,
You do.
it's
I love that
healed
about
me.
You can see that and feel it even when looking at the pages. You know, that's someone that's healing or
Support
healing.
groups, sobriety. Can't say enough about getting sober. It's hard to heal when you're medicating, and
I think we'll do
For
another
me.
episode on sobriety.
yeah, for me
And
it was. I couldn't feel my way. You know what it is? You have to be willing to feel pain. Because if you don't let yourself feel the pain, why would you fucking face it? Why? Like, so when I was medicating the pain, I didn't really need to. And so it ran my life. Yeah.
Just shove down there,
Yeah.
deep down in there.
And lots of contact with friends. That's one of my practical tools. I'm a high contact sport. If you want to be friends with me, you better fasten your seatbelt. Yeah. Love,
I love
connection.
If there was one question that you wish that I had asked you that I didn't, do you have one?
Maybe what did I love about my mom?
What did you love about your mom?
I don't know the answer. Well, that's not true. Like, I guess I just need to say that part of her good, her light, her golden sort of part. She is thoughtful, and, you know, I know people find it hard to hear both things at the same time, but I mean, and I don't know if I can sum it up with traits, but she was my mom, and you know your mom's smell and the way she is, and a hug from her, the way she cooked, the way she, you know, there was a lot that was good, a lot, and she cared a lot about being a mother. So whatever happened to her, I don't know, but I'll never know, probably. I'll never know.
The healing is still possible
Yeah,
despite
it is.
it.
It's getting into the now. That's what healing's given me.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming on here to the Hold On to Your Heart Project podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I know you'll be back because you are just definitely, like I say before, you're raw and honest and you're real and you're willing to talk about hard things that I feel like a lot of us shy away from. Just like you say, not knowing the language or where to start, and it is confusing, right? And you know, there's parts of your story that even myself I relate to, but I'm not even sure I know how to open up about it. And sometimes I'll touch it and I'll be like, was it real? I don't know. Who knows? Just move past, or you know, not wanting to go there. And
Who wants to go
I
there?
see, yeah, it is. It's like
And yet-
it is a real journey to get well, but you know, I think the longer that people or whatever stay maybe away from it, the truth, then you're only putting yourself back in your own healing and
Yeah.
what you can actually truly offer to the world, because you know now you're sober and you're getting well and recovering from abuse and all of it, being marginalized from your family, and you're the brightest person that I know and all around, right? So the work has definitely, you know, the healing and the hard work that goes into that, I feel is just, I don't
Pays
know what
off.
to say. Yeah, I can say. I
Thanks
love
for
you.
having me. I love you too.
Thank you for coming on here with your little girl.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for having me.
That's good.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Hold On to Your Heart Project podcast. Our goal is to share pieces of our heart in hopes to help ease someone else's journey and our own. You can follow us on Instagram or YouTube at Hold On to Your Heart Project, or you can find us at www.holdontoyourheartproject.com. We've provided some links below from some of the practical tools that Jennifer shared in the podcast about what helps her. Just some links. So if anybody is curious to know what those are, you can find them below. And yeah, look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much, and hold on to your heart.